welcome to all our viewers. I'm your host Pallavi Kulkarni and it's a pleasure to be with you once again for another exciting and insightful panel discussion. Today we are exploring a crucial and transformative topic in the field of education, the role of early childhood education in supporting neurodiverse students for long-term success. Early childhood education lays in the foundation for all future learnings, but when it comes to neurodiverse student, it becomes a powerful tool in shaping a positive, inclusive and successful educational journey. To delve deeper into this vital subject, we are joined by renowned experts in the field of education who are making significant progress in creating inclusive environments and ensuring that neurodiverse students receive the support that they need to thrive. Without further ado, let me introduce our distinguished speakers. Our first guest is Mr. Dinesh Yam. He holds BSE Nursing and MSc Nursing from Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science. Mr. Dinesh has served in various prestigious roles, including as Assistant Lecturer at Sarojini College of Nursing, Head of Department and Associate Professor at BMS College of Nursing, and now the Principal at ABS English Public School since 2023. Mr. Dinesh has extensive experience in teaching, clinical guidance, and academic management. He has organized and participated in numerous workshops and training programs. A life member of Karnataka Nursing Council and Trained Nurse Association of India, Mr. Dinesh is also a former editor of nursing journals and college magazines. He has also overseas experience working as a university lecturer and HOD of Dehradun University at Ethiopia. Our next guest is Mrs. Sharmila Anilesh, Principal and Academic Director at Jai Hind International School. With over 20 years of experience, Mrs. Sharmila leads with a focus on student-centered, inclusive pedagogies such as inquiry-based and experiential learning. She has expertise in ICSE, CBSE and NIOS and state curricula and has developed strategies to support teachers' growth and neurodiverse students. Mrs. Sharmila has led her schools to notable achievements including International Schools Award and Brain Feed Excellence Award. Mrs. Sharmila holds a postgraduate diploma in school leadership and management along with an MA B.Ed and continually updates herself with skills through workshop and certifications. Her passion for holistic education is reflected in her background of Bharatanatyam dance, emphasizing emotional well-being and creativity. Our next guest is Mr. Shrikant Pathak. He holds 22 plus years in K-12 education and 12 plus years in educational management. As a principal at Basham Blooms, the Global School Bengaluru, Mr. Shrikant brings expertise in school management, curriculum development, and educational leadership. He has also led Sanskriti Public School, Maharshi Vidya Mandir, and has served as teacher at Aditya Birla Public School, driving academic excellence and school culture. With experience spanning teaching and leadership, Mr. Shrikant is passionate about creating inclusive environments that supports neurodiverse students' growth. Holding degrees in modern history and B.Ed education, he is committed to transformative power in education. I welcome all the three guests to my panel discussion. I welcome you all, sir and ma'am. So without a further ado, let's get into the panel discussion. So here's my first question to Mr. Dinesh. How early should educators and parents begin to identify neurodiverse traits in children and what role does early intervention play in their development?
Good question, ma'am. Early is good. That is what a preventive medicine as a preventive education comes. First thing to understand, we need to get something into what is neurodiverse. What is this? Earlier we used to say disabled children. Yes. But it is not a right term that we used. We are adding up with this new term called neurodiverse. I mean, the word itself says it is diverse. That means the actual features of nervous system is little bit diverse. We cannot treat them out of the box. They are part of our society. They are part of our education system. They are part of the family. So as a child grows, it starts from a single cell, it gets into two cells. After the fertilization, it grows into womb, that is where prenatal phase comes. Then comes the intranatal phase. Intranatal is during, at the time of pregnancy. Then comes the postnatal after the birth of the child. And again, the human growth continues. We call it as infancy, toddler, preschooler, schooler, adolescent, adult. If you come to this point, how early is the point where the couple gets married? From that time itself starts. But however, we are not able to trace exactly what is going to be the risk. In my viewpoint, 3 to 4 years is the actual period after the birth of the child is the right period because majority of the nervous system develops in the first 5 years. We say under 5. So in the nervous system, in order to get to this point, we have to understand few important things. There is neurogenesis, that is where the nervous system is developed into a neural tube, which is during the prenatal intranatal period. Then as the child grows, nervous system, the brain tube gets into a lobes. We have cerebrum, we have cerebellum, we have pons, we have so many centers around. Our nervous system is so complex, it is not just limited to the brain, but the entire body is connected. And nervous system is something like which controls the entire body, which is a master center. A little damage to any single nerve could even lead to the lifetime damage to the child. Things could be like birth asphyxia. Birth asphyxia in the sense during the birth, if the oxygen supply is not enough due to various reasons, there could be damage to any one of the structural and functional aspect of the nervous system. So there are series of diverse children. Say ADHD is very common. We find some epileptic children. We also find mild to moderate or severe mental retarded children, children with hyperactivity, children with speech disorders, children with delayed, developmental disease, children also with, dental issues, speech issues, memory, thinking, and other complex issues. However, most of these children, when you put them under proper guidance, under the educator role as well as parental role, and as well as a doctors or any medical therapist, it is very easy to just keep going and bring them back to the system gradually. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time. In fact, sometimes years. But it is possible.
Right. So thank you so much, sir, for giving uh, biological traces of how this leads to a problem which we need to face it without separating, without categorizing those students. So my next question is to Sharmila ma'am. So how can educators tailor their teaching strategies to better support neurodiverse children in early childhood settings, particularly in areas like social skills and emotional regulations?
Here, I would like to suggest some thoughts to educators and schools on how they could best support their children who are neurodivergent. The basic three issues which children face is behavioral issue, social challenges, and executive function. Behavioral issues is the best thing a teacher can do to sort out this behavioral issue is to validate the child's feelings and help them to problem solve their behavior. Validating their feelings means giving them a chance to say, giving them a chance to say how they feel, listening to them without judgment, and letting them know that you are there for them. So it gives them the confidence to open up and speak to the person who speaks to them affectionately and listens to them. So, and by validating them, it gives them a chance to calm down and finish their work. So, and also the teacher can, or the person who's talking to them can briefly explain, okay, this is acceptable behavior and this is not acceptable behavior. And so they can fix into doing the next task.
Very right, ma'am. Even as a normal human being, we expect validation, emotional validation. In that case, I think divergent students, divergent kids, they need extra care, extra validation, and that little extra attention that can really help them to grow their thinking capacity and critical thinking capacity. So, yeah, that's a great answer. So, my next question is to Mr. Shrikant sir. So, what are the most effective resources, tools, or technologies available to early childhood educators to assist neurodiverse students in their learning journey?
With coming of information revolution, number of things are available nowadays. Broadly, these can be categorized into two categories. One that is going to help at the micro level, means the person who is suffering from certain disorders. It is going to help them. Like assistive tools are there. For example, number of apps have been made where the child can learn to read, and in that way they can learn to pronounce the words correctly, and number of practice sets are there. So on that basis the child can improve in its action and behavior. Similarly, at the macro level, number of things are available. For example, the tools are available, platforms are available where these students can share their experiences, they can share their problems, and psychologists and other experts are there to address these. Besides this, in order to bring these students into the mainstream from being marginalized, earlier they were on the margins. So, in order to bring them into the mainstream, sensitization programs have been done for teachers as well as for the society, for the community, so that the problems of these students can be understood by general mass, and then and sense of empathy can be created for them so that they people consider themselves as in the mainstreams. And beside this, government is taking number of steps starting from sensitization to the teachers to how to handle these, and including inclusive education, including number of topics and themes where the issues being faced by these people, neurodiverse students, these are highlighted so that people also come to know what problems are being faced by them, and a sense of empathy and inclusiveness can be developed.
So, sir, with your experience, with your vast experience being a teacher and now being educator, so in this longer journey, you could have seen a lot of students. You would have managed these kind of students, their curriculum challenges. So, what was your experience, and how did you tackle these? What strategies you or your colleagues applied to face these challenges?
Ma'am, in that case, I would like to tell about my personal experience.
Sure, sir.
And I'm still searching the answer how to correct that. The child I expect might have crossed 20s. The child may be in 30s now.
Okay.
It was with my working in district Shravasti of UP, one of the most educationally backward district. I found a child. The child used to write the mirror image of the letters.
Okay.
And whatever options were available with me, I discussed the thing with number of experts in education, with a number of psychologists, psychoanalysts, and counselors. Till date, I was not able to find any solution since the parents were very poor, so they cannot afford to provide the best facilities to help the child overcome that problem. Now you can understand when someone is writing the mirror image of the letters, then what is going to happen? So what, since I was clueless, so the best option that I was thinking of, so I just started reading and writing in that way, so that in order to let the child feel not marginalized but in the mainstream. So the child, it was a girl child, she was a girl. So she used to write writings and I used to check it in that way. So this was the way that I transformed myself to understand that, and the purpose was not to let the child feel marginalized. Simply this. With this concept of getting the child included in the classroom activities, that I have done, and the result was that is true. The child was not able to cope up with studies in terms of what the society or the examination boards expect. But at least the child was feeling happy and attending the classes on a regular basis. Besides this, sometimes when there are problems like children write the mirror image of few words like D is written as D and D is written as B, and sometimes C is written in a reverse order. So those can be tackled through regular practice, and for this there are practice sets available. Sometimes some software are also available for doing the required corrections.
So I think now from you told that it is very old batch student she was
Yes.
20 years ago. I think from there to now we have transformed a lot with dealing with students, the way of treating them. So I think as you mentioned about softwares, back then they were not there to help those children. But now I think the today's children are very lucky to have such support system, and the amount of awareness the educators are having to deal with such students. So that was a great example how that shows the transformation, your example. So with that, our next question is to Sharmila ma'am. So how can communities at large, including policymakers and local organizations, help to create a more supportive environment for neurodiverse students in early childhood education?
See, here, first of all, we all must realize that we all have a role to play in encouraging children to become acceptable to adjust to this inclusive children. So, first of all, we need to teach the children that they need to accept differences. Every one of us have differences. So, we need to be, all of us are unique, and that itself is a wonderful thing. So, children need to understand that every child is different. So, then only they will accept them in the friend circle. First thing is the neurodiverse children need to be taught how they can build friendship skills. And the other kids also should understand, okay, this child needs some help in this manner. How can I help the child? So we as teachers and educators need to teach other children how they can help these kids. So in that manner, these kids can acquire friendship. And that is very important in this community. And also being inclusive, the child should not feel left out, and the child should feel that the child is loved and the child is accepted. So by inviting the child, say for a birthday or something, and when you invite the child for a birthday, you need to conduct some games or something for that particular child, so that child can be included and feel everyone are there for me. So the child feels accepted and the child opens up. So in this manner, the community and social communities play a huge role in accepting inclusive children.
So I think even the isolation also leads to a lot of other mental traumas and issues for them, which can be eradicated or avoided through such community programs or gatherings where they are included and felt like they're just others like other human beings. So I think that's the great way to show them empathy. So with that, let's take a short break and come back with more informative and inclusive answers. Welcome back to our panel discussion, and we are discussing about how to deal with children that are suffering from neurodivergence. And today we have an experienced panelist who are discussing that. So our next question is, what are the key factors to consider when transitioning neurodiverse children from early childhood to primary school, and how can educators ensure a smooth and supportive transition? And this question is to Mr. Shrikant sir.
Just like Sharmila ma'am rightly said that no child should feel excluded.
Right.
Means all the children should be in the mainstream. So there are a number of things on which we can focus, like the child's participation can be ensured through communication. Normally, what happens when the child is not able to communicate in a proper manner? Sometimes they feel themselves as out of the group. So we need to ensure that, and that can be done through practices, through number of examples. And in this, I would like to share what I have read somewhere, that there are a number of institutions which are working for this to solve the problem of pronunciation defects, etc. And sometimes the Sanskrit shlokas are quite helpful in all this. And there is one organization in Pondicherry, Mr. Sampadanand Mishra is his name. He is working on this, and they suggest the shlokas or the chanting of different Sanskrit words to the children based on the type of their speech disorders. So that can be helpful. Similarly, the child can be included in making of the plans for any social activity. So purpose here is to ensure that the child feels confident in sharing his or her inputs for the betterment of the group, in order to lead the group or to give a proper direction to the group. Besides this, there are other strategies that can be included, like onboarding. The modern management system is there. So this word is quite familiar. Onboarding of the child into the group activity, that is very much important. And here comes in the role of the collaborator, or those who are leading the group, or those who are maintaining it. Just like role of special educators are there. So they need to make the child feel confident and contribute in a positive manner. So these are the things, and regular monitoring, and if required, the corrective measures should also be taken into consideration and application for the benefit of the child as an individual and group as a whole. Our purpose should be to make the child be an asset rather than be a liability in the long run.
That's a great answer, sir. It's very important to make our kids as our assets to the future so that they also lead empowered life. So my next question is to Mr. Dinesh sir. What are some challenges parents face in recognizing neurodiverse traits in their children at an early age, and how can early childhood education system help them to bridge this gap?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, having already one of my colleagues said, the major challenge is acceptance. People doesn't accept it.
Yeah.
The question is, a child is born neurodiverse. Who is the reason? It's not the child. It's the parents, genes, basically genes. When I come to this point, most of these neurodiverse characteristics are nothing but genetic, majority. Very few could be acquired. If it is acquired, it cannot come overnight. It could be over a period of time. Most of these children are generally born defect. At the time of birth itself, most of these defects can be identified. Even before that, we have so many prenatal screening devices. We have so many types of genetic testings which you could trace out. So coming to this point, parents has to accept the contributor is not the child himself or herself. The parents have contributed basically 99%. Rest or the other things could be environmental challenges, could be toxins. Of course, the society is a reason. Could be pollution. It could be kind of any transformation changes that happen due to the hereditary diseases. It could also be due to diet. These days diet is also very, very important. Not just a diet of child, parental diet. Pregnancy care is very important. If the pregnancy care is not that important, if the parents neglect, especially mother and family members who do not support, obviously we all have to accept the fact that we are the reason. Father and mother is a basic reason. So coming to that, acceptance beyond that, once you accept, the basic thing is many parents knows, okay, that there is an issue. Parents are not willing to come forward and admit it socially. People feel that, these days, these are not treated as evil spirits. We're treating it as a biological and biochemical changes that happen in the genetics or in the nervous system. So as a parent, we need to address this. We need to make sure, okay, we need to make sure that it is one of the challenge. It cannot be happen overnight. It should take long time. That is one thing. Next is access to the resources. Many parents do not know where they have to go, whom you have to approach. Can I go and meet the principal and discuss about it? Or should I discuss with my relative? Or should I go to a hospital? Or should I go to a specific specialist? Whether I should go to neurologist or should go to the psychologist. We do not know exactly. The first point as an educator, there is one thing, mother is the first, teacher. School is best next place. So as an educator, it is our role to identify. Apart from parents, I'm just going out of the topic. So, apart from parental role, school has to coordinate with the parents. This is another thing. And the next challenge is parents. They do not know how to face that particular social stigma when it comes to their child saying this is the problem. And the foremost is not but not the least, comparison. Okay,
Right.
this is a basic stigma that parents undergo. So, like a brother is born normal, a sister is born abnormal. If people are aware of the genetics, Mendel rules, there is if people knows it, they will know. Not everything can be transformed to the same child. 25% chances of defect, 75% of normalcy is there. Sometimes in the second generation, grandparents' genes are carried to the grandchildren, but children are normal. Okay, their children are normal. So this fact scientifically it must be addressed. So parents who does not know much about it, they are not willing to accept it. The problem is, the deep knowledge is missing. So as this thing, apart from this comparison, apart from this lack of resources, lack of willingness, one of the major challenges, who has to take the responsibility, whether it is a father or it is a mother. It comes the blame game. So because of you, so and so happened. Mother says. Father says because of your carelessness, this has happened. So in such case, coordination is very important. Both are responsible. So both are equally responsible. Do not worry about what relative says. Okay, we are not really bothered about it. Of course, nowadays the society is much supportive. As far as I have seen, most of the people, even the illiterates, could accept. Okay, this is a condition. We need to treat it as a condition. So this is a very complex topic to make the parents to address it and look into it in a way it is a biological disease, not a stigma. So that should slowly change over a period of time. In fact, there are so many examples which we can add. Coming to this, you might have heard of Albert Einstein, the story of Albert Einstein. When you look at the picture of Albert Einstein, it looks very strange.
Yes.
He was a strange boy when he was young. It
Yes.
took nearly 4 to 5 years to speak basic words.
Yes.
He was being put out for the poor math grades, if I'm not wrong.
He had dyslexic
Yes,
issues.
he has a dyslexic issue too. So slowly, he became one of the brilliant scientists in the world. This has to be acknowledged. So that is what we use specially able children. We don't
Yes.
use diverse or disabled, specially able. As most often we see in the society, when one sense doesn't work, other sense will be very strong. So as a known fact, we must know the strengths. As a parent, you should see what other strengths that child can have. How do I bring it, by enhancing this strength so that he will forget the weakness. So if a child is, really having speech problem, he must be good at memory. He must be good at writing. He must be good at so many other things. So any specific issue should be addressed. Anyway, that is the role of a clinical therapist and the school and other people, professionals who will say. So at the parent level, these are very important thing. But add on one more important thing I would like to add is the financials. So
Yes.
having already sir mentioned, financials is a basic thing. These are costly. So when you go for a speech therapy, it charges so much. So also, in fact, it takes so many audio visual, equipment, hearing aids, speech aids. Sometimes we need to have surgeries for some children with some specific learning issue. So, okay, some children will have vocal issue, dental issues. Some children will have, neurobiological issues. In such case, they need to undergo long-term therapies. So these are bit expensive and time-consuming. None of these diseases could be managed overnight because these are chronic diseases. Chronic in the sense it's over a period of time they could be managed. So one of the important thing is financials. Well, most of the parents, working parents or who are in the rural areas, they find it very challenging if they are not affordable to take care of this children.
Also, since you mentioned about the genetical problems,
Yes.
it is not something that has been acquired.
Yes.
It's a genetical issue which also comes with a intense stigma.
Yes.
So my next question to you is, how can early childhood educators reduce the stigma surrounding neurodiversity among children and adults in the school environment?
Yes, that's a good question, especially when it comes to the Indian context.
True.
We are more accustomed with being stigmatic. Our society is so cultural and we are able to stick to the traditions rather than going into the modernity. The acceptance into getting through something like new technology, we are still behind. It doesn't mean we have bad resources. India too has a beautiful resources to manage this. First and foremost, there are few ways that we can try. Basic thing is a parent should know normalcy, abnormalcy.
True.
The challenge is a child has a speech issue at 2 years, another child has a speech issue at 2 years, both are not same. Having a child having a speech issue even after 3 years, 4 years, at the beginning it was just warning, slowly it could move to the pathetic, then finally it went into the profound. Even after 4 5 years, child is not able to talk. Then something has to be taught to the parent what is normal, what is abnormal. See, even at the first look, most of the even at the newborn assessment when they're trying to do, or when the child is coming to the school for a preschool admission, we have a certain protocol. We just look at is the child normal or is the child, I'm not going to use abnormal, is the child is being specially able.
Right.
So in the screening, most of the schools they try to look at it not because we want to exclude. Very important. None of the schools have the right to exclude this child. We need to put them into the system, but at least at that point, we must be able to alert that this is actually the actual issue. So this has to happen as early as when the child is toddler. 3 years. Nowadays, 3.5, 4.5, there is a criteria for admission. So at the time of first meeting, we should be able to find out. Then another important thing, though it is not a role of educator, whole society has to be educated about the basic identification or signs, how we can identify. Say simple example, when you divide the whole development of the child, we have something called motor development, we have psychomotor skills, we have cognitive. Cognitive is related to the brain's thinking function, social skills. We also have something about physical skills. Broadly, when you classify, this nervous system comes under a connection with one of these or all of these skills. If you take example, 3 months baby should smile. Okay, you use that as a social smile. A child typically, some children go up to 6 months. They start developing a gauge, eye to eye contact with mother. At 9 or 10 months, they are able to identify who father is, who mother is, who are my family members, who are outsiders. So this, the point where you see the strangeness, if a child fails to do this, so no social smile, no gathering, no reflexes. We have something called reflexes. A child, when you touch the palm or so, they must grasp.
Yeah.
If that is not there, you might see that a baby can grasp so hard. If that is not there, that is an indication of neurodegeneration. Could be some damage to the nervous system. Child is not responding even for stimulation. That is what we say, parents, mother, to stimulate the child. Look at the child each time, interact the child. Father also plays a very important role. These days, both father and mother are included in delivery process. Okay, it is compulsory. Father is also given something called kangaroo mother care. Kangaroo mother care, you might see how the kangaroo take care of the baby. Baby should be attached to the father's body, that is without clothes. So that is a way of building the bonding. I'm just giving an example. Then if the child is not able to hold the pen, at 2.5 years, it is called pincer grasp. Pincer grasp is a child must be, see the first complaint the parent come with 3.5 years is, my child is not able to hold even the pen. What did you teach? Okay, the thing is, these skills are biological. These must be addressed. You must tell, was there an issue with these things, social smile, interaction, okay, physical skills, motor skills, sitting, standing. These things has to be identified as early as possible. Having said that, in the first 1 year itself, you could trace out social smile issue, sociability issue, then grasp, okay. Then child will also have something called motor reflex. Motor reflex is something when you put a child alert on a table and just beat next to the table, child should cry. Child should become more attentive. Child is not responding. His nervous system or her nervous system has some issue. And one more important thing, you need to have the risk profile of parents. More parental damage and more child damage. As I already told, if there is an issue with parent, genetic tendency is more among these diseases. That is why they are called childhood diseases. They are typically identified as early as possible. This is one thing. And another important thing, the parents, when it comes to the resources and how do you manage, school educators should be given a basic curriculum. Their educator curriculum itself should have included what is preschool, what is schooling, what is their physical development, motor development, how they behave, what are their strengths and weaknesses, how individual child should be treated, how you need to bring them back to the social platform. That is one more important thing. As a school, we can have one more thing. Recently, we did it. We conducted a health screening, a basic health screening. We called one school health nurse and one pediatrician, and we have organized a basic health screening for children. Of course, it is mandatory as per the records. We have done it. So, basic things like we take head circumference, means growth of the head. We look at child's stand or stature. We also look at reflexes, basic speech. These can be identified by anybody. You don't have to have any,
That's right.
specialist. So these things could be taught to the educators. And another important thing, temper tantrum. Some children, they behave abnormal, but it's not that they're abnormal just because attention. So this is another important thing. 3, 4, especially even not just 4. Even as adult kid like 9th, 10th children, they need attention. That is how we are looking at it. So they want to be given importance. So these things, how do we manage, bring them back to the normal system, should be trained by this properly trained children. And we have one more provision. We have a school health nurse program. We have so many school health nurse program and school health doctors programs. We can tie up schools if possible, if parents are also bit affordable. We can tie up with a school to the regular visits so that a school health nurse or a neurologist or a therapist can come and visit and look at any issues that are ongoing. Yes, of course, some schools do have some provision. But if not regularly, a visit, 1 or 2 visits, rare visits can also help them. That is one thing. So apart from this resources, the next thing is connectivity. What best we can do is, there are many NGOs, there are many therapists who are doing service freely, there are many counselors who does it, and we also find some government hospital where the free services will be given. You can connect the parents a specific session with them. They could go and talk to them. So because opening up is very important. So we can connect them, at least if not we are not able to, we can connect them with so many hospitals. And we can see nowadays even teaching hospitals are doing so many therapies for free. And even counselors could come and guide them. School health counselors are available. So in some schools I have seen that they will they will enroll one school health counselor. So there will be separate child counselor or child guidance counselor. That could also be one way we can connect them.
That's a great answer. Instead of looking into the children's condition as a stigma, it's very important to look into the solution part of it rather than just cribbing over the issues that we have. I think that brings more sensitization among the society from the smaller institutions like a family to the school to the work system. Everywhere people get aware of what the issue is in depth and how it needs to be mitigated, how it needs to be faced, and how it needs to be accepted at the first place. So, my next question is to Sharmila ma'am. What are the potential risks of not properly supporting neurodiverse student in early years, and how can we prevent these from translating into challenges later in the education and their personal life?
It's a very important question because these neurodiverse children need to be identified at the early years. If we skip that, there will be many number of challenges which they have to face. Like they have poorer outcomes in school participation or in their academic results, and later on in their employment rates also it will show up. So we have to this leads to poorer mental health, and they get emotionally upset as they do because they do not know how to handle how they are default. They do not know how to handle it, and they face academic and social challenges also. They do not know how to mingle with other kids. Once we do not train them how to mingle with other kids, then they seclude themselves and they isolate themselves, and it will become very difficult for them to face the world. So, to preventing this is in all our hands. Like, you need to create a sensory friendly environment. People should be very emotionally, and they should connect with these kids, and they should be sensitive. Like in a classroom, like they should use natural lighting, like they should have some noise cancelling missions or hear things where when the children are very disturbed, they can just seclude themselves and get relaxed a little bit and then come back to the class. They should be given that support, and they should be also not secluded. Okay, you can't do this. They should have not have that assumption. They should have the feeling, okay, I will try, I can do it, and we are the ones who are going to help them out in that word. I can try, I will do it. So that leads them into a long way where they can grow up and they can involve themselves in the society.
That's very good answer, ma'am. So my next question, and so the last question goes to Mr. Shrikant Pathak. How does early childhood education impact long-term outcomes for neurodiverse students regarding academic success, mental health, and social integration as they grow?
With proper and timely intervention, these shortcomings or the difficulties can be overcome. And the world has seen people like Stephen Hawking, I would like to refer, means having multiple inabilities, still he was ruling the world so far as the world of physics is concerned. So, timely intervention, proper intervention helps a lot. And the idea is to ensure that child is healthy in all aspects. India being a land of diversities in number of aspects. So if there is any problem in any one aspect, it is going to create problem for others as well. For example, we need to have a person who is healthy in all concepts, all ways. Means the child need to be physically healthy, mentally healthy, socially healthy, emotionally healthy, and spiritually healthy in order to ensure that child is going to have a positive impact on the society. And the interventions will be required in case it is there with the child is having some deficiency. So right, timely and proper intervention is required for that purpose, so that the child will be able to contribute and ensure his or her positive contribution.
So that's a great answer, sir. So my one last question to all three of you is: you all come from a very vast experience, and you have seen a lot of students with such issues. So, with your experience and with you being associated with top institutions right now, so how collaboratively you all are working towards this progression of including neurodiverse students without making them feel that they are special or they are marginalized? How what are the steps that you three are taking to have this progression?
I would like to start with this. CBSE has made it compulsory the appointment of a wellness teacher and counselor.
Right.
So we at Bhashyam Tools, we are providing the facility of counselors, and whenever teacher spots the first question mark in terms of behavior or learning issues of the student, we refer that case to the counselor, and counselors counsel the student. In case if required, they invite the parents also to attend the counseling session along with the child. So in that way, the child is taken care of not only academically, socially, and in other aspects in the school, but at the home as well, so that total and proper care can be ensured for the child in order to let the child be in the mainstream.
Here, patience is very, very important here. Being very patient to that little child takes it a long way. So being patient, and there in Jai Hind here we teach action grammar. So everything is with playway method of learning. That is the rule of the CBSE for smaller children, like playway method of learning. So as a game, the children tend to understand, and it's easier for them to develop many things as they many learn through playway method of learning.
See, the ignorance is the root cause of this problem. The first thing for these parents, in my experience, was what I suggest. School has to be formed.
Right.
And unless and until we come to a firm, grip over them, firm control over them, parent does not listen. Though you are giving them a lot of resources, at one point of time they look for 1 month, they wait for 2 months, they wait for 6 months. By the time it crosses maybe 6 months or 1 year, they lose patience. At that point of time, to think of other options, put them in some ashram or bring them back to some other system. Don't keep them in the system. So we have to be very strict. We also need to give proper reassurance of the what law provisions are being provided. Not only on the parents' point of view, even as a school, if we ignore what could be the complications, we should be very much aware of it. This is one prospectus. On the other side, future prospect, you need to think the current school children who are high school, we are educating them each and every bit of this. How could this happen? So, what is your role? As you grow, how do you grow healthy? How do you prevent in case if there is an incident? How could you manage? So, these things, recently they were conducting one free program. We are also giving sex education is one part. Apart from this, we are also including this basic, preventive measures. We are also adding up with new courses since I am well known to this. So in my school, we are giving a short booklet and we are also educating them the basic science, the basic symptoms of diseases, different diseases. How could you manage in your family if that happens? What is your role? What you're supposed to do within the set limitations? How you could manage. This is one thing. We also have a tie-up with PES hospitals in our school. I'm talking about. We are tied up with PS Hospital, is a newly emerging hospital, very next to my school. So we generally go and connect to the department, neuropsychiatric department, and we tend to ask them if there is anything that you can do for our parents. We are also organizing some basic. We are organizing like blood donation camp. We must also make sure this screening should happen regularly, and we need to notify though the child belongs to your school or not. If anybody found with that, we need to have an inquiry who the child is, where the child is going to. If not, we are able to do, we can give information to the child helpline. There is standard child helpline. We can connect to them. So they will at least try to look into it. If possible, they could help in some or other way. So it's not a one man's work, it is a great collaborative work, which includes parents are in the mainstream, teachers in the next point. Okay, apart from that, healthcare professionals would come. So above all, society. This is very, very important. You need to bring awareness to the society. Say 10, 15 years back, the way people used to look at mentally ill and what now they look at has changed a lot. Now purely it's all about even the poorest man knows it is a disease which can be treated, whatever it is. If you do not, as madam said, if you allow them to grow, they grow into big issues.
Right.
Okay, we need to just, right from, as I said, the diseases or defects or whatever comes, it comes from the parents itself. So we need to just manage at the root cause level so that for the future generation, at least the amount or number of diseases could be reduced. So as the complexities are growing, number of these neurodyslexic and cases which are related to mental retardation, language issues, learning issues, hyperactivity. Hyperactivity is most common in these children. As though it looked like it became a normal trait of a child to become hyperactive. Children doesn't sit at one place. That's because of various other factors. But when it goes beyond, it becomes a disease. So it is very important to acknowledge to what extent you can bring them back by collaborating with the whole society and the parents. So in my view, we need to be very responsible for this. We need to make parents responsible if they don't feel to do so. Not all parents have seen ignoring after a certain period of time. So in my view, we need to be very firm about it.
That's a great answer. I thank all my panelists for sharing their valuable inputs, thoughts, and detailed information to create awareness. I think all of us have got a little information at least about how neurodiverse students are experiencing, what they are experiencing, how they can be not marginalized but treat equally in the school and social status. So that's all for today's panel discussion. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep watching the ENN News. That's all for today's engaging panel discussion. Feel free to reach out to us for any queries and we would be happy to answer all of them. For more such videos, reach out to our website www.theenn.com. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe to the video. Thanks for tuning in. This is Pallavi Kulkarni and we'll see you next time.